Hi, I'm Toby.
And I'm Nick.
And we are here bringing you the Pure Property Podcast with Track Capital, where we talk about all things property and property investment. And the aim of the podcast is to provide you with bite-sized chunks of our industry insight and knowledge to help investors invest intelligently. And this week we're going to be covering the subject of remote investing.
Yes, so as everyone I'm sure can imagine, we get a lot of interest from both UK investors in all areas of the nation and then overseas buyers as well. So particularly the Middle East, countries like Saudi, the UAE, Qatar, etc. And then the Far East as well. So Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and recently mainland China as well. So today, as Toby's mentioned, we're going to go through and give some key insights as to what you should consider when you're investing remotely.
Exactly. And remote investing recently has especially become important and quite popular due to the fact of how technology is now moving, how we can do a lot more. We can work remotely now. We don't have to be in the same country. The access we have via our laptops and our mobile phones is making it a lot easier to do so. This also helps with the UK property market, as it means you can move with the market. You have flexibility, so you're not stuck just to what used to be your local area. Once prices rise there, rental demand subsides, etc., you're stuck. You can't go anywhere else. This just means you can move with the different markets, you have flexibility, and you can continually invest, which is always good, especially if you're trying to build that big portfolio and that pot of money at the end and that constant passive income.
Yeah, that ties us into one of the first key areas that we're going to speak about. So we've roughly divided it into three key topics that we can consider. So the first overarching one is research. So that's effectively just all the preparation you can do prior to taking, physical action and committing on anything. So that would involve, firstly, maybe narrowing down a location or working with an area that you want to focus on. What typically happens is you might have an overseas investor that knows they want to invest in the UK. They might have a couple of cities in mind, but they're not 100% sure of where they specifically want to focus. That's typically something we see, right, Toby?
Yeah, definitely. I think some people like to sort of narrow down, like you mentioned, that one area and focus on that, have that laser focus. But then we do have others that are open to several areas as long as it fits the numbers that they're looking at. And again, this is where you can come to utilize the expertise of companies such as ourselves, just because we look at the whole market, all the areas in the UK, and we sort of pick out the best bunch. We provide the material which does the research for you, and then it's just a case of you researching our research.
Yeah, definitely. So ultimately, as an investor who's researching the market, we'd always encourage that you speak to people on the ground and who have specific knowledge in that area. So whether it's us covering key investment-focused properties, or if you're speaking to maybe a local estate agent who's discussing properties with you, the key thing is just to do your research and speak to experts in the local areas. So that goes in the sort of initial stages when you're trying to narrow down a location, but also once you've actually got a specific location in mind, it's worth speaking to, again, estate agents and letting agents to get a real insight into how that market's performing right now. Because if you're searching online or you're looking at maybe some dated articles, it might not be the most up-to-date information out there. So pick up the phone, go to Rightmove, go to Zoopla, drop emails to estate agents and letting agents, and they'll give you a really good feel of the demand, the pace of the market there, what the letting ability is like, how the sales market's performing, and you should be able to build up a really good picture of what to expect from investing in that local area. You can take that one step further. If you really want to get hyper local, you can look at things like community forums, Facebook groups. There's lots of material online, and just get a really good understanding of what's happening in the area in terms of the general sort of living experience. So crime rates, major employers, regeneration of certain parts of the city maybe, and general sort of council and local initiatives, which may be really interesting or could even potentially directly affect your investment. And in addition to that, you can look at sort of local news. You can Google in local areas and get really familiar with what to expect. So hopefully those two things will help you sort of focus down and get a bit more familiar with the local area and where you want to invest. The only thing I would say here is this specific podcast, as you probably agree, Toby, is not for due diligence. You know, we're not going into great detail about how to find a property development or what type of area to look in. We have other podcasts dedicated to those points. So just bear in mind, these are just overarching theories to consider for remote investment. They're not a full due diligence checklist.
Yeah, this is just stuff that you are able to do in the initial instance, and it's all done, as we're saying, remotely. This is stuff that if you're not on the floor in the area, you don't live there, this is stuff that you need to do. You can pick up the phone, you can do this on the internet, so you don't have to be even in the country. These are just bits and pieces and the ways to do it if you are, as we're saying, a remote investor.
So just to summarize that section then, so topic 1 is research. So get familiar with your local area, speak to people on the ground, and then once you find a suitable property, make sure you do the relevant research on the property, on the product. So if it's a development, if it's a house, just make sure you're carrying out your due diligence there. But yes, topic 1, research. So do you want to take us on to topic 2 then, Toby?
Yes, so this is obviously very important. This is probably one of the main things that helps you to invest remotely with the least headache, and this would be building what we call in industry your power team. These are people that are experts or in their fields, able to advise you correctly and diligently. And they're going to be a very important part of your remote investing, because you need different people in different areas to help you with your investment purchase and process and dealing with the property going forward. I think the main one we're going to cover and is going to be with you for a long part of the journey when it comes to property investing remotely is estate agents and letting agents. Estate agents, of course, they may be the people that you're buying a property through. They may be the people that you're calling to get an idea on the local area, as they'll be the best people to give a quick call to, see what prices are doing and see where good areas to buy. You might find a road which you've seen a property or a development on, let's call it, I don't know, Charters Road, for example. You can call the local agent within the area and say, look, I'm looking at a property on Charters Road, what do you think? And straight away they probably sold properties nearby, or they know this street. They'll say, yeah, that's great rental demand, sell prices are strong, good road. They might say, yeah, that's good, just be aware next to the road you've got a problem road which may cause you issues, etc, etc. That's what they're for. The next one, which is a massive cog in this piece of machinery that you'll be putting together to invest remotely, is a letting agent, because they are going to help you do this in a complete hands-off way. The main way they're going to do this is they will be sourcing you the tenants. So they'll go out, find the tenants, they'll reference them, put the contracts in place, do all the legalities that's needed, and then they will fully manage the property for you. So you won't get any bother unless something is majorly required. For example, I don't know, the oven breaks down, so they will email you, say, dear Mr. So-and-so, the oven's broken down, are you happy for us to get this fixed? And you just say yes. Apart from that, they look after the property, they deal with the tenants, so you've got no stress, and you just collect your money each month. Also, just to couple those together, letting and estate agents, the good thing about those, if you build a good rapport with them, you can also utilize them to be your feet on the ground. So if you need a viewing done, so you might have spotted a property or a development that you like and you may want to go along and view it, you're not in the country or not local, you don't want to drive up just for the one viewing, you could ask them in a friendly manner, do you mind going to view this property? It's in their interest, especially if they are a letting agent, because if you then get that and they viewed it for you and helped you out, you're more than likely going to give them the business, so then they make money out of it. This is something I have personally done. I've bought a property without viewing it, but I had a very, very good letting agent, which I still use today, and they viewed that property for me, gave me the feedback, gave me their honest opinion, ended up buying it, and yeah, lo and behold, they're renting it out for me today.
Yeah, that's been really useful over the years to make positive relationships with estate and letting agents. These guys, ultimately, yes, they are driven by the business that you're going to help them produce, but ultimately they're going to help you in any way they can to get to that stage. So finding a good estate and letting agent and building a long-term relationship with them, building trust, building rapport is absolutely crucial. And when we say letting agent, exactly as we mentioned, so they will also effectively, in most cases, be your property manager. So they will be the one looking after the property for you. Now, having a good quality property management service versus a poor one is worlds apart, both financially and because of your time input required. So we always recommend investors, if you're looking at a new build development, try and go with the recommended one if you can. If not, if you're buying on the secondary market, do research, speak to a couple, get a feel for the potential relationship there, and really make sure you're putting time and effort into choosing the right one at the outset and not just finding the cheapest you possibly can.
Yeah, exactly. And like mentioned, with the letting agent, they're going to be used for you on your handover point when you're buying a new build. So if you're buying an off plan, obviously you haven't seen and it's brand spanking new, you need someone to go in on the handover period, have a look around and go through the snag list. And that's something that they can do for you, and they will do for you as it is in their interest. As Nick mentioned, it's definitely worth its weight in gold to find an excellent one there. On to the next person that you need in your power team is a good mortgage broker. One that is happy to work remotely and sort of via Zoom calls maybe, doesn't necessarily need to meet you face to face, happy to do everything via email and phone calls. That is a very good thing to have. And also, if you're an overseas investor, a mortgage broker that is competent and able to provide you the best overseas mortgage products that are out there for you.
Yeah, exactly. So the point here is we don't just want any old high street bank, because a lot of investors will come to us and say, we ask them, where are you at with your mortgage? How are you finding that process? Do you need any help there? And often they'll say, I've spoken to my bank, they can do this. Well, really what you want to do is have a good quality broker who's got access to the majority of the market in terms of the products they have available, because that will open up a lot more flexibility in terms of interest rate, general contract terms and lengths, and give you an overall better offer financially. And obviously over the long term you might get better rates from them in terms of the actual arrangement fees, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Next one on the list would be what we call new school solicitor, not your old school solicitor, which needs you to come in the office, sit down, see them face to face. This is very old school, and to be fair, not really the way it's done anymore. So you need a good, efficient solicitor that has the capability to deal with you and your remote investing situation. There are certain solicitors out there now that have online portals, so you can just check the updates on their system, and this is definitely a good thing to have because it keeps it streamlined. You don't have to keep chasing your solicitor to find out an update. You can literally just log onto the portals and have a look. So you definitely want a modern working solicitor, as this is going to be very important when investing remotely.
Yeah, and I think we can see a pattern start to emerge here. Like, yes, you are based remote, you're not near the property, but the people that you are building relationships with, estate agents, letting agents, mortgage brokers, solicitors, they're often going to be people that you will use again in the future. So it's worth setting the tone of the relationship from the start, building that trust and being quick in responses, and ultimately in the long term, hopefully that's going to help you have some really reliable people around you.
Yes, and another one that you might consider if you're buying a property which needs work, which maybe isn't something we would completely recommend if you want to be a complete hands-off remote investor, but you will need builders and probably a project manager as well. This can be costly, time consuming, and cause a lot of headache, because if this goes wrong, obviously it can be expensive, and you will have to be hands on in trying to sort the problems even with a project manager. So just something to bear in mind. However, our main focus is on hands-off remote investing, so maybe not a major one on the list there. And last but not least, if you want complete hands-off, peace of mind, less stress and less time input needed, a sourcing agent or an investment company is probably the best way to go. They will provide you with ready-made and turnkey investments. They will do all the research for you, provide it to you, and then you just need to check up, verify, and do your due diligence on that research. So that would be probably another big one. And again, what you'll find with those companies is they will tend to have a lot of the contacts, most probably within that previous list that we've just mentioned. So another good way to go if you want that complete hands-off remote investing. And Nick, why don't you let us know what the next one's going to be?
Yeah, sure. So this is more in terms of the systems and organisation. So almost the operations department of the process. So this is everything in terms of logistically how you're going to manage it remotely. So there's a couple of things to think about. Firstly, more on the organisation side. So what we always recommend investors do is have a spreadsheet, a record of what's going on with their specific properties. So that will enable you to firstly analyse a deal at the start, but also during the management of the property, what's being spent, what have you spent things on, what are the time frames, and also maybe even notes and bits and bobs on how the letting agent's performing it or management company are performing, etc. The point is just to make sure it's all organised. You can see the numbers very clearly. There's no grey areas or stones left unturned. It's just very organised. You're treating it like a business, basically.
Yeah, and that's very important, because with that sort of spreadsheet, you can do an overview of your properties that are in your portfolio, and we would definitely recommend annually doing a portfolio review so you can look at the profitability of your properties. So this will enable you to keep on the ball, and you may have a property which is slowly declining in profitability and maybe the prices have risen in the area, so then you might make the decision, well, let's sell this property off. So that's quite important to have, because it will help you to analyse these on a yearly basis so you can look over your portfolio and make sure it is all running efficiently and, most importantly, profitably.
Yeah, definitely. So in short, make sure you're measuring everything, have it all organised and in a nice, neat spreadsheet, and then be sure to check up on that frequently and your general portfolio as well. So moving on to the next point then, it's all about the numbers, this one. So we always recommend investors get quality tax advice, or they work with a quality accountant. Now, if you're buying one property, sometimes it can be quite a simple process, and you might not be, need in-depth financial advice. However, if you are looking to build a portfolio, we always recommend getting the structure and the process right from the start, and again, building a relationship with someone who knows what they're talking about on the tax side. So for overseas investors, being based remotely, we want to think about NRL1 forms as well, which is basically registering with HMRC as a non-resident landlord. Again, it's a simple process, but we want to make sure we're getting the right advice around it, making sure we're following the right steps. Moving on to the next point, a limited company, again under the systems and organisation topic. So this is how we're structuring and actually purchasing the deal. So as everyone's probably aware, you can buy property in your personal name, or you can buy it through a limited company name, which has extensive tax benefits. And again, tying that in with the tax advice, it could be the case that it's perfect for you. It might be that it's not required just now. But if you have someone that's there to advise and help you with that, then you'll know either way, and hopefully set yourself up for the best possible property investment journey. And the last point, currency exchange. So if you are transferring vast quantities of funds from different countries, different businesses, etc., and then we want to make sure we're doing that all as efficiently as possible. So having a good currency exchange company to work with always helps as well. So those are the last couple of bits there. So looking at spreadsheets, measuring our property's performance and having a review, getting quality tax advice from accountants, structuring the deal correctly through a limited company if needed, and making sure we're sending money abroad in an efficient way.
Yeah, I think overall those subjects are also something you would do if you're not investing remotely, but it is very important to have these in place and organized if you are investing remotely, as it will cause less headache if you're not in the country. Especially, you can't just pop to your local accountant and get some quick advice, etc., etc. It is to have this structure in place, because it just makes everything more seamless and stress free. I mean, that is just a quick overview, and these are everything we have gone through today is all stuff that you can do and run from your laptop or your mobile phone. Everything we've mentioned, there's no reason to have a physical presence, so that's why we wanted to give those as an overview, just to show you that you don't need to be in a specific area and place to invest, and that is why we are seeing, especially with technology, remote investing becoming very, very popular, and people are now exploring different areas to invest. And we can see this, especially with the London and southeast investors moving up north to invest. They don't have the time, most of them, to visit these places, yet they're doing it very, very successfully and making good money from it as well. In an overview of that, I think the main message that has come across from this podcast is to leverage the expert advice from different professionals. That is the best thing to do for time efficiency and also money efficiency as well, because you can lose and spend a lot of money if not done properly and without the correct knowledge. So these people are there to make sure that you are doing it correctly, which in the long run can save you money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just without going into too much of a sales pitch, as we touched on earlier, it's important to work with companies that can potentially help you with these areas. So, for example, for our investors, we can introduce management companies, mortgage brokers, solicitors, other sourcing agents, and maybe in locations we don't work in, or companies to help form a limited company or transfer money. So almost offering one dedicated point of contact. Now, we do mostly focus on the new build market, so purchasing off-plan or properties that are very close to completion, and by doing so, we're offering our investors more of a hands-off product, so with a new build warranty, with a management company set up in place, with a recommended mortgage broker and solicitors who will know the developments. So that might be something that you want to consider as well, rather than going for the secondary market. So hopefully that was a really good overview today. As Toby suggested, it's all about building the right relationships with the right people. It can all be done from your laptop, and it isn't as scary as everyone makes out.
I think also, just before we finish, yes, leveraging the expertise of these people is very important, but also choosing the right product is very important as well. I think if you are looking for hands-off remote investing, for time reasons and even risk reasons as well, choosing a new build or a nearly new or a recently refurbished property or off plan is going to be a big factor, because with that, you know what you're getting, you know it's going to be new, you don't have to worry about any works, usually you have warranties. It just makes it a lot more stress free for you. So I think, again, choosing the right product is very important. You don't want to be looking at a property which is run down, needs lots of work, so now you're going to have to be dealing with sorting out the contractors and liaising with different people to make sure you can refurb it to get a tenant in. That is very time consuming, and again can be very costly if done incorrectly. So I think that is an important factor as well.
Yeah, so just to summarise today then, before we tell you what's coming up the next week. So the first topic, or the first area to consider, is research, both the local area, the market and the product. Secondly, your power team, so who's going to be assisting you with the transactions and the investment journey, i.e. estate agents, mortgage brokers, solicitors. And then thirdly, your systems and organisation. So just make sure you're structuring it correctly, you've got it all written down professionally, and you're treating it like a business. So that's it for this week. Toby, do you want to let us know what's coming up for next week?
So next week we're going to end the year with our 2021 property market predictions. So this will be a time where you'll get to hear me and Nick give our predictions, and then hopefully next year we can listen back and hear how very right, or hopefully not, but very wrong that we have been. So it's going to be an interesting one, and I'm definitely going to be putting my head down to make sure I can look at some more data and see if I can try and get this as spot on as possible.
Yeah, I think I know you like doing sort of your market research and looking into things, so that's going to be really interesting. You know, I think some people, or a lot of people, have their own opinions and their insights of what they think is going to happen next year. But I think there's also a couple of areas we'll hopefully offer that maybe some people haven't thought of as well. So no pressure, Toby, but yeah, next week should be a good one.
Yeah, and especially with the year we've had and with everything going on, it's definitely going to be interesting predictions. Because it's quite a varied one, and it's hard to put our finger on where it might go. But no, that's all we have time for, and thank you for listening. I'm Toby.
And I'm Nick.
And this is the Pure Property Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.